This is a 2021 Mercedes AMG A35 4Matic, a little pocket rocket of a Mercedes with turbo power and all-wheel drive. It's a car that belies what Americans typically think when they think of a Mercedes-Benz. But don't forget, this is a company that builds the sexy AF AMG GT and has dominated the Formula One World Championship since 2014. So yeah, the Stuttgart-based brand builds the S-Class, but quick and capable cars like this A35 are definitely in Mercedes' wheelhouse. My name is Robin Warner, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I want to tell you more about it. The A-Class is the least expensive tri-star car you can buy in the US, starting $2,580 less than the next cheapest, the GLA SUV. But the A35 is the most expensive version of the A-Class thanks to its AMG tune replete with lots of go-fast bits. That puts it above the front-wheel drive A220 and all-wheel drive A220 4Matic, which means you get, among other things, 114 more horsepower to play with. That's right, despite being less than 180 inches long and weighing less than 3,600 pounds, the AMG A35 is powered by a turbocharged 2-liter inline 4-cylinder engine producing a peak output of 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That power is then channeled through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission before getting to all 4 wheels. The base price for the 2021 Mercedes AMG A35 4Matic is $46,900, and my test car cost $56,020. For those that are interested, I included detailed specifications including dimensions, fuel economy, and options in the description. All right, let's take a look around the car. All right, here it is, the 2021 Mercedes AMG A35 4Matic. This particular car you're looking at is in polar white, which is the same color of my recently reviewed E450 all-terrain station wagon. Another lovely Mercedes, and I'll put a link to that review right up here. You might also notice that in front there's a couple little winglets on the side, some black scoops, and a black lip that kind of makes up a lower front spoiler. Well, that is part of the aerodynamics package, which is a $1,550 package that also includes a rear spoiler and rear diffuser and back, which I will show you in just a moment. This car also is not running on the standard 18-inch wheels, but some AMG 19-inch wheels wearing some nice and healthy Pirelli P0 rubber, summer tire rubber. Taking a slightly closer look, you might also notice some big old brakes in there. Those are cross-drilled 13.7-inch discs in front with 4 piston calipers, and then in back you'd make do with just 13 inches, which is actually still quite large, and single piston floating calipers. And like, take a look around here. There is that pretty darn aggressive rear spoiler. And then coming around here, check out that cool hunk of diffuser right there. Now, this looks very boy racer. It's very over the top, right? But Mercedes claims this was wind tunnel tested and has legit high-speed handling benefits to it. Also, you guys know this is a pet peeve of mine, but those tailpipes are all real. Generally speaking, it's kind of a little bit tall and a little bit narrow, but the shape of the A35 works for me just fine. I like the shape of it. I like the sloping rearness to it. It almost has like, starts getting into a hatchback looking kind of place. It's not your typical front engine rear wheel drive layout. Don't forget, this is a front wheel drive based car, so the proportions are not quite as cool as say an E-Class, especially an AMG E-Class, but you know, it works pretty darn well. And you know, it's just got this right level of aggression to offset its inherently tall and narrow shape in a way that works for me. It's like right on the edge of being over the top, but that in my mind kind of makes it perfect. You know, there's real contrast to that, just like this contrast polar white paint with the big glass on the roof. So Anyway, overall, it's a very cool shape and I think fits the car perfectly. Let's take a look inside. Starting in the very back of this car, because it's a small little disappointment, if I'm honest. There is your trunk, and it's plenty wide and easy to get into, but it's pretty shallow. That's not very deep in there. Only 9 cubic feet of space back there. But on the other hand, it's super easy to fold the seats down with those handles right there and extend the space just like that. And in the same vein, the space back here is not fantastic. It's not bad. You know, I have okay knee room here, but you can see the seats are quite low, so I don't have good thigh support, and it's also pretty darn narrow. If you had a 5th occupant, you'd be hurting pretty badly. But for 4, the 4th guys, the 3rd and 4th folk, do get cup holders, so that's something. Not to mention a USB charger to fight over. But I like the contour, I like the red stitching, I really like the red seat belts, and I actually really like the front seat. So let's go up there. The first thing you'd probably notice is the twin 10.25-inch screens next to each other, one acting as the instrument cluster, the other for your center console touchscreen. But that's actually not even close to the most exciting part about this car. You might also notice, and this is more appropriate, the flat bottom steering wheel with tons and tons of gauges on them, including flappy paddle gearboxes, upshift, downshift for the dual clutch transmission, 7 speeds. As always, Mercedes did a great job with the interior trim, you know, door adjustment right on the door there, heated seat, power windows, nice red stitching right here, and synthetic microfiber right there. You notice that the seat has a lot of good bolstering, upper and lower, and you do have adjustable thigh support right here, right there. Once you get in though, that's where things really start getting interesting, because first of all, the steering wheel has just a mountain of controls all over it, right? And here's another look, upshift, downshift. Here is your center console screen, vents, climate control. That is wireless charging down there. That is extra. Everything's extra on a Mercedes. We're just used to that now. Lots of buttons. And here is your lower center console. See this cable right here? That's also extra. That's $25. But hey, whatever. It's an AMG and it's super cool. Let me start this car and just touch on some of these tricks. Now that the car is running, you can see that these are actually buttons with illuminated screens in the middle. So this is the rotating dial for drive modes. So you can change the drive modes down here or right up here on the steering wheel. And if you go counterclockwise, you can go to individual and slippery, snowflake, or if you go clockwise, you can go to sport or sport plus. And sport plus is where some more fun is. Over here, this one turns on and off the automatic start stop. And this one right here, AMG Dynamics, I'll explain that one more on the drive, but that actually changes the way the car, changes the front balance feel of the car as you drive, which is pretty slick. Now, when you go down here, as I said, you can change the drive modes down here. This allows for manual shifting here. That comes on or off. Obviously, this is traction control, those kinds of things. And then here, you can adjust the suspension as well. And let me show you up here. Here is your nice big moonroof. Flick that open to get the glass. Sun's kind of reflecting down into the car right now. Close it back up. Those are those options right here. Then up here, you can get to the home of the navigation button, and then this is like almost like a little trackpad. You can move around the control center just from this little dial on the steering wheel, right? And then if you want to get to something, you push it down to select. So that's just one of many ways to control this car. This is just surrounded with different options, and you have another one up here to control the screen the instrument cluster screen. So, I mean, again, there's so much to go over here that doesn't matter how much I show you, there's going to be something I miss. So why don't we just see how this car drives? Hi, everybody. All right, we're in the least expensive Mercedes-Benz you can buy here in the US, but we are driving the most expensive version of the least expensive car you can get from Mercedes in the US, and that's because this is an AMG, and AMG stands for awesome as far as I'm concerned, because they do great work with most any car they put their hands on. And this is really no exception. And that's despite the fact that we're starting with some inherent disadvantages. For example, this is a transversely mounted engine up front. That means that instead of going fore aft in the engine bay like this, it's side to side like that. And that puts the engine and at least part of the transmission up in front. That puts more weight over the nose of the car. And if you have more weight, well, that's more weight that the front axle has to deal with, which makes it harder to have crisp and sharp turn-in. In addition to that, the body is a little bit taller and a little bit narrower than you'd think be ideal for something with such a sporty nature, right? This is 56.9 inches tall, nearly 57 inches tall, and also only 70.70 inches wide. So ideally, you'd like to push this thing down a little bit and let it squat out a little farther. But despite those things, this is a lot of fun. This is a great, great car. AMG did it again. Starting with the engine, this is a 2-liter turbocharged engine with a single twin-scroll turbocharger, which means you have 2 different intake ducts into the turbocharger to more evenly distribute the exhaust pulses to spin up the turbo more quickly. And that allows it to spin up to 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, and do so without huge amounts of turbo lag. That's a power to weight ratio of better than 150 horsepower per liter, which is pretty good, right? And yeah, it doesn't feel quite as crisp as a naturally aspirated engine, but really, it's pretty darn good. Another reason is the quick shifting 7-speed dual clutch transmission. And finally, of course, this is an all not front wheel drive car. So all that power gets distributed to all 4 wheels and traction is not an issue. And you know what? It doesn't sound bad either. It's not slow. And I'll tell you what, yeah, it's not the same as a real nice throaty V8 or like a silky smooth V12 or even a really nice running inline 6. But as 4 cylinders go, that has a real nice throaty growl. It's definitely a bassier sound than you're used to. And yeah, I wouldn't get sick of that anytime soon. Now, Mercedes has 2 different sound levels you can choose from, balanced and powerful. You can think of it as quiet and loud. And of course, always loud. Please, come on. On top of that, so you have the all-wheel drive like I mentioned. What that allows it can do is it can either behave like a front-wheel drive car or send as much as 50% of the power to the back. So you can have an even split of torque to all 4 wheels, making it easy to maintain traction. And that means that this thing is not slow. Let me show you. Okay. Briefly slowing down. Little brake torque. Jeez. Man. You could hear how quickly the shifts banged off. You could hear that there was absolutely zero wheel spin of any kind, and yet the thrust was there and it was immediate. But that's actually not as fast as this car can do. This actually has something called race start. It's launch control, but Mercedes calls it race start. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my special secret place to do launch control starts and show you that. Check this out. Switching to Sport Plus mode. Coming to a stop. Hard on the brake. Hard on the gas. Race start. Release brake to start. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Wow, those shifts. Oh, my God. Oh man, this is Mercedes' lowest price car right here. That's not bad, right? 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, Mercedes claims, in this little thing. That's pretty darn good. And blissfully, we're not just talking about straight line performance here. Despite all those inherent disadvantages, this thing is a handler. Mercedes threw a lot of technology at this thing to make it adaptable so that when you need something to be reasonably comfortable, it'll do that. But when you need something to feel better and be a handler, this thing sharpens up quite a bit to do that as well. To start, this car has the optional sport suspension. That means that you have adaptable dampers that will adjust and stiffen up if you ask it to. Furthermore, this has something called AMG Dynamics, which is a trick that actually applies light braking to the inside rear wheel while you're cornering. And that adds a little bit of yaw to the car, which makes it want to rotate a little bit more, which takes away some of that inherent understeer that you'd get from having so much weight on the front of the car. That's a trick that Mercedes uses to counteract the inherent momentum of so much weight on the front of the car. Then more fundamentally, you have really nice big brakes that I showed you already, and there's good pedal feel, good initial bite, good deceleration that's consistent. You have fantastic seats that are super supportive, both good upper and lower bolstering, like I feel nice and snug in here. And I have Pirelli P0s, good proper summer tire rubber to work with. And AMG did a fantastic job tuning this car. The steering feels quick and sharp. The front end has good response to my inputs, and the car feels inherently stable, which you would expect from a car like this, but it does rotate pretty darn well. It's closer to neutral in terms of front to rear balance than you'd expect. I didn't expect that from this car, frankly, and they still delivered. Now, partially, it's that trick with the AMG Dynamics, but it's not perceptible as you're driving the car around, so kudos, they did a good job tuning that. And of course, because you have so many different ways to tune this car, you also have drive modes. What I like about what Mercedes is doing is you get adaptive dampers, so that's a proper change. So it's not just like, oh, the steering feels a little bit more heavy and the engine responds more quickly because of a different throttle map. You get faster shifts, real changes in the handling with the dampers, and you also get that neat trick with the inside rear brakes being applied to help make the nose tuck in a little bit better. So having those options is really great, because when you just want to cruise, you can put this thing in comfort mode and just cruise. But when you find yourself with a nice set of twisty roads, you can, have a bit of proper fun. Plus, as I showed you earlier, this car has a bit of a boy racer look, which is, right on the edge of being too much. But to me, it's beneath it. I love all the little cool flaps and wings and winglets going on in the air scoops and all that kind of stuff. The cool part about it is Mercedes claims that this was wind tunnel tested and legit, that this adds stability for high-speed handling. And, you look at it, it does look proper. It looks loud visually, but it's proper. It's not just fake stuff added on, tacked on at the end. It's real, and I respect that part of it. And again, as I mentioned in the opening, these guys know what they're doing. With all those Formula One championships, it's hard to argue. So put it all together, and what do you have? You have a small, pretty practical, subcompact front-wheel drive car that is like turned way up, much like a super hot hatch would be. So what you have is the perfect midlife crisis car, because when you're really feeling like, oh, I need to feel my youthful spirit again, you can turn this thing up and really have some fun. But on those other days when reality hits and you're like, I just need a comfortable ride to get home, well, this car can deliver that too. Having that duality in this car is what is so pleasant about it. And you know what? I'm 41, and I feel like turning the wick up just a little bit in this car because it's enjoyable, and that's the most important thing. The feedback, everything about this car. really just delivers the things you're looking for when you want to like feel a little bit more alive behind the wheel. You can't fault a company for giving you that. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. All right, goodbye.